Julius Nova Chrono, the current Wizard King residing over the Clover Kingdom, a title reserved for the strongest Magic Knight, and a man Asta, the main character of Black Clover, has looked up to since day one. But it's been a while since Asta has last met his idol, and the events of the Elf and Space Sagas has elevated him up the power rankings of the verse immensely, with Julius only having one significant showing of his power years ago. So has Asta finally surpassed Julius in terms of power, as he has already done with the other top characters of the verse, and could he manage to beat the Wizard King in a fight? That's the exact scenario I'm going to be going over with one of Black Clover YouTuber's best, and a friend of mine in RedCloak.
What's up, guys? The RedCloak, and today I'm here with Basically Anime. I do talk about Black Clover on my own channel. You can go check that out. But today we are talking about Asta versus Julius. Should be a fun matchup.
Yeah, definitely one of the funnest matchups I could think of in Black Clover, and especially a matchup I don't think we could have ever made like a year or two ago, considering where Asta was. But yeah, it should be a fun one. Without further ado, into the Black Cloververse video. So before we get into the actual fight scenario, I think it's important that we look at the respective combatants and the feats they've displayed in the series so far. And seeing as he's the main character and the biggest chat, we're going to start off with Asta. Now when it comes to Asta's feats, especially his power in relation to the other top characters in the verse, I think is pretty clear-cut, wouldn't you agree?
It's pretty simple. Asta was able to slap around 50% of Lucifero when he was in his true double union, which is the strongest form Asta had in the Spade arc. I do think that Asta could beat up 100% Lucifero right now if they were to go combat each other, but that's not really the topic of today's video.
Yeah, that's a little bit headcanon. I can also agree with that. I think it's arguable, but that's a little bit headcanon. But yeah, I think that's really the only feat Asta, I think that's his strongest feat. We don't have to really go into Asta's past feats. I think that's his biggest feat. At that point in the series, I think he was probably the strongest character at that point in the series after defeating Lucifero. I mean, the only character we know to be above him right now is Paladin Lucius. I'm not going to get into him against Unio. I think they can be relative until we see a clear-cut, definitive power gap between the two. But yeah, in his events of these final saga, he did go against a base and Paladin Lucius. While he did lose against Paladin Lucius, the only thing he was really lacking in the fight was attack power and attack speed. He did get stronger.
Yeah, I do agree. And like you said, Paladin Lucius and Yuno is a whole different story. I don't want to get like different fans of those characters into a fight.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll just say Asta and Yuno are relative.
Yeah, but definitely did get a whole lot stronger once he got into the Land of the Sun and started training with the Year 7 over there, which are the equivalent of the Magic Knight captains of the Clover Kingdom. He did learn the technique of Zetin, which allows him to concentrate his ki, or in his case, his anti-magic, and increase it and attack with explosive power. We never got a clear multiplier. We thought it would be 100%, and we tried looking for that, but we never got a clear multiplier to how much Zetin has. But we do know that it greatly and vastly increases his AP and attack speed, as we do learn that it's the perfect counter-strike. As long as the enemy of Asta reveals his hand, or Asta somehow catches him or sees him, his anti-magic will win no matter what in that situation and strike his opponent. So that was definitely something he was lacking in the Lucius fight the first time. It's something that we can definitely see is going as Asta's key attack against future enemies.
Yeah, I do agree with that. And like for Asta, we already saw him beat up some different paladins, which I do agree that they are weaker than the ones that are in the Clover Kingdom. He was able to beat the Fear Paladin, which I do not remember the name of. He was able to beat Paladin Sister Lily without trying to hurt her.
Yeah, he clearly outsped and outpowered Sister Lily. I mean, there was points where he was just simply running through her attacks. He did defeat that third paladin. Was that the Fear Paladin? Probably so.
Yeah, the Fear one.
Yeah, he completely just Zeted him out the story. He was able to split the sky, a feat that I don't think it's scalable and really matters in relation to Julius, but a powerful feat nonetheless. He took down the seven-headed dragon, something that none of the other Risen 7 could do, including Ichika, one of the strongest Risen 7. Overall, Asta at this point in the series, like I said, I would put him top 2, only under Paladin Lucius at this point in the series.
Yeah, that's a good placement.
Like, even back in the Spade arc, I would even put him number 1 before we even found out about Lucius and Paladin powers.
Yeah.
But overall, that's really the only significant Asta's feats. The Paladin Lucius fight and the Lucifero fight.
Now, obviously, Julius Nova Chrono is the Wizard King, and being the Wizard King, you have to have a tremendous amount of strength and probably even surpass some of the captains that you rule over. Now, obviously, I usually originally thought that Julius was weak, but obviously I do not think that anymore. Julius Nova Chrono is probably one of the strongest characters in Black Clover and in the Clover Kingdom. Julius, in a statement from Yami when he was versing a 60% Dante, he even said that he was not on the level of Julius Nova Chrono. Now, obviously, Dante did increase 80%, but Yami still didn't backtrack on his statement. He still considered himself weaker than Julius. This Yami was equal to an 80% Dante, and we know that Dante and the other Dark Triad are all equal to each other. So Julius would low-key be either stronger than all the Dark Triad.
Definitely, and especially the statement was specifically regarding attack and reaction speed, showing that Julius has better speed feats than all of them, and he, at this point in the series, might have been the fastest character. Another feat of Julius that was heavily underrated was when he went against the Ancient Demon. Now, at this point, Julius was a kid and aged himself 10 years, making him around 24-year-old. And at this point, he was able to stop the Ancient Demon's attack, and we know from the Natio, the only thing that could have stopped the Ancient Demon's attack was magic and equal in power. And this is a 24-year-old Julius who is not in his prime, and we know that Julius was around 30 years old when he became the Wizard King. That was arguably his prime. This was not a prime Julius, and yet he was able to temporarily stop the Ancient Demon's attack, something that Asta post-training with Noct couldn't do and was struggling to do out of Devil Union. And this same Asta is stronger than an 80% Dante, or has AP that ranks above Dante's AP. So we can put 24-year-old Julius above this post-training with Noct Asta. And overall, Julius could have probably blitzed and wiped out the Dark Triad at 24-year-old.
Yeah, that's the crazy part. And obviously, there's the light novels, which we and basically anime have not read, but we do see some scaling for Julius. He was able to speed blitz all the captains days before the Elf arc even started, and that includes Nozel, who was able to beat a Dark Elf Patri.
Yeah, and this is a Dark Elf Patri, which should scale above his Unsealed Elf form, which should scale many times above the base Patri that faced Julius, but even then, there was still more nuance to that fight.
Now, obviously, Julius did lose against Patri, but let's be honest, Julius was actually holding back, and he was not really trying to hurt Patri because that was William's body.
Yeah, that's a very important fact that I tend to overlook. That in fact, I actually was of the mind that this Asta was going to wipe Julius off the floor, but looking at this holding back feat coupled with the speed blitzing feat, Julius is actually looking in pretty good hands. I mean, when we saw Julius in his first significant showing, and actually only showing of the series against Patri, there was multiple times that Patri was evading Julius, but like RedCloak said, Patri even admits that Julius was holding back. And Patri in his unsealed state, which was I guess his strongest state at that time in the series, had an attack that covered the entire Clover Kingdom. And not only did he admit that this attack wouldn't have killed Julius, which should put Julius around island or country kingdom level, not gonna scale his durability like that, but just an impressive durability feat, Julius was able to match that attack blade for blade with his time magic. And that was kind of the only reason he actually ended up losing that fight. So definitely an underrated feat of Julius that he was holding back the entire time.
Well, obviously for Julius, how would this, correlate to the final arc? Obviously, Paladin Lucius in his base form when he was fighting Asta, he even told Asta that he considered himself stronger than Julius. That means Julius' strength was either relative to his base form, or Julius was either weaker than his Paladin form but above his base form. But we are in the belief that he was either weaker than Lucius' base form, which is kind of crazy because we thought that Julius' strength would not be relevant in the story anymore, but clearly Lucius even considers Julius' strength relevant.
Definitely, and I think a definitive ranking for this is that Asta ranks over base Lucius, seeing as he needed Paladin Lucius to even have the AP to harm Asta, but obviously Paladin Lucius wipes the floor with Asta. The only question is how Julius, a prime Julius, fits into that depth scaling.
Yeah, it's kind of hard because we don't know what is Lucius talking about. We don't know if in his base he's stronger than Julius, in the Paladin form he's stronger than Julius. It's hard. And even if we got a definitive answer, we don't understand what this means because we haven't seen Julius go all out.
Definitely, but we will be using what we've seen out of Julius, which again is heavily impressive. He is stronger than 80% of the Triad. I think there's an argument that he might be stronger than 100% of the Triad. So yeah, there are definitely arguments and statements that prove Julius's power is still relevant in the story of Black Clover that has gone so far in the power ranking and the overall power scaling. But how does that fit into the scaling chain of Asta being in between base Lucius and Paladin Lucius? And that's what we're going to find out in the next scenario.
The Asta with his anti-magic is kind of difficult because one, you have to be way above Asta for your magic even working against anti-magic, but obviously that isn't the case with Julius. Julius right now doesn't seem to be at the level of Asta, so anti-magic is going to be a big problem for Julius to combat.
Especially when we have the statement from Lucius clearly explicitly stating only physical attacks work against Asta, and again this is later proven when Asta was sparring against Ichika, and he says he can nullify anything that's in the area regarding magic, meaning Julius without time magic would need the physical AP to actually harm Asta, as we saw with Paladin Lucius.
Alright, so Julius really needs physical strength because obviously he only has a 4 out of 5 in the Black Clover data books. That's all he really has, but I don't think that would be enough to actually stop Asta.
Yeah, we definitely don't have any solid physical scaling for Julius, and not only would you need physical scaling, but you need physical attack speed, or just attack speed. And at the end of the day, we've already established that, sure, let's say that he's relative to a base Lucius, but he's weaker than a Paladin Lucius. After seeing the Asta vs base Lucius fight, Asta was beginning to win that fight. When Julius or Lucius would teleport, Asta would nullify the teleportation using his Demon Destroyer sword, showing that his reaction speed is up to par, maybe even surpasses base Lucius. And the only time base Lucius clearly blitzed Asta was distracted with the citizen. So let's say that Julius is relative, or maybe if you guys want to make the argument a teensy bit stronger than a base Lucius, I hardly think that he's like full out blisting Asta. Even if you use time magic teleportation, Asta would nullify it. And the only thing Asta was lacking in the fight was really attack power, and he definitely got that with Zetin. Like I said, it's the ultimate counter strike. Julius tips his hand, Asta sees it, and then kind of just Zetins him back to like the grave, the Wizard King grave.
Yeah, Zetin is definitely a counter to Julius. And if you want to say that Julius may be weaker than Paladin Lucius, but stronger than base Lucius, you could say that. But even Zetin alone could immediately counter Julius, because I don't even think that Julius is on the Lucius level.
Exactly. We would only have to make like a long stretch and like be extremely into favor with Julius to say he's on the Lucius level. And even then, base Lucius was just okay. Technically, the fight was going back and forth, but at a point, Asta was definitely winning that fight. Julius can't really use time magic like that, and like we said, no solid strength scaling. And then the Asta Zetin, I think it's wraps for Julius. I mean, I would go as far as to say low diff.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a low diff as well.
Yeah, I mean, unless Julius can, I don't know, throw rocks, get some citizens involved, maybe go the Sister Lily attack plan again, there's not much that he can do. And it's kind of weird to say how, so Asta has technically surpassed the Wizard King.
Yeah, I think both and Asta have basically surpassed that threshold.
Yeah, especially with going against base Paladin Lucius right now in the manga. But that's really all we have to say with Asta versus Julius. Again, Asta kind of just sends him out the story. Maybe takes that Wizard King spot himself. We'll see. But thanks RedCloak for coming on. You have anything to say regarding your Black Clover content?
But if you want to see more Black Clover content from me, you can go check out my channel. Again, it'll be in basically anime's description. So yeah, thank you for having me on.
Yeah, definitely will. Again, Asta, low diffs, Julius. Have anything to say about that? Let me and RedCloak know. But love to have him on the channel some more. And yeah, Asta has surpassed the Wizard King. Have a nice day.